I just witnessed Jarrell Miller splat Lucas Browne like a bug on a windshield in 6 rounds over in Dubai. This was Miller's third comeback fight, I believe, since his 4-year ban for failing multiple PED tests. It was originally, from what I heard, supposed to be Manuel Charr fighting Lucas Browne. I'm not sure what on earth is going on with Manuel Charr in the WBA, but he appears to have replaced Freza Kendo, because Kendo had this bizarre situation with the WBA where he was hunting them down literally for years for either a title fight or some financial compensation, I don't know what. So he was hanging around forever, and now he's finally left the picture. Manuel Charr seems to be the guy sniffing around the WBA for this title shot. He feels like he's entitled somehow or something. It's really very depressing with this Manuel Charr situation. So, yeah, it was apparently supposed to be Manuel Charr versus Lucas Browne. Thank God it wasn't. One, because I think this turned out to be a more entertaining fight than that would have been. And for two, I just don't want to see Manuel Charr fight anymore. I mean, if he is going to fight, please go fight some obscure person who we don't know about. But when it comes to anyone that's actually relevant in the heavyweight division, I don't want to see them fighting Manuel Charr. Anyway, it turned out to be Big Baby Miller versus Lucas Browne. Browne coming off an upset victory. And he brought some ambition to this fight because just a few years ago, Lucas Browne was getting stopped by the likes of Dave Allen. But here, he actually came to fight. He came to give it a go. Jarrell Miller, enormously fat, 333 pounds. He is an interesting heavyweight, even now, right? We don't know whether he's clean because the fight was in Dubai. We don't know what the PED testing protocol is like over there. But the version of Miller that we saw in this fight, to me, is interesting because even though he's not a massive puncher, I mean, he was really loading up at times in this fight against Lucas Browne and catching Browne clean on the chin. And Browne was able to take the shots. Browne eventually goes down in the fight in the 6th round, but that's after an accumulation of punches and an awful lot of pressure and being very, very tired from hitting Miller with all his best punches and nothing happening. So, yeah, Miller is not a massive puncher, but he's got relatively quick hands, certainly for a guy of his size, 333 pounds. So, yeah, relatively quick hands. And he's like a concrete wall moving forward at you. Or, I mean, they call Joe Joyce the Juggernaut. Maybe it's a more appropriate name for Jarrell Miller because he's literally like a concrete wall. I mean, Lucas Browne is 277 pounds. That's what he weighed for this fight. And he could not keep Jarrell Miller off of him. An enormous guy like Lucas Browne, who is physically strong. He was hitting Jarrell Miller with everything he could. He was using all his physical strength to try and gain respect, and it wasn't working. Miller would just bowl forward, hit him with these little short shots on the inside, and Miller's jab actually was probably the main difference between the two. Miller has got the faster hands, better defense, but in terms of punches thrown, I would say Miller's jab is what separated them the most because his jab was faster, it was more consistent, it was rocking Lucas Browne's head back, and it was more and more effective as the fight wore on. But Lucas Browne gave it a good go, particularly for, let's say, the first maybe 4 rounds. But after he emptied the tank, there was one round, it might have been the 4th, where both guys were literally swinging for the fences at each other. I mean, it was one of the most comical heavyweight exchanges you'll see because they were both literally swinging like a pair of drunks outside a pub on a Saturday night. But Lucas Browne couldn't put a dent in him. Miller might have been buzzed slightly once or twice, but for the most part, nothing. No reaction. And that really speaks volumes, I think, about Jarrell Miller's chin. Again, we don't know whether he's clean right now, but if he is clean, this guy's got a tremendous chin, tremendous punch resistance. Because Lucas Browne, even though he's never been an elite heavyweight, right, he's limited, he's always had a tremendous punch. That right-hander Lucas Browne's could probably deck most heavyweights in the world, most heavyweights in the top 15, if he catches you clean on the chin with it. But against Jarrell Miller, nothing. So it's going to take a very, very serious puncher to put Jarrell Miller in his box, I think. And if you are not that type of puncher, you're going to have not only tremendous boxing skills, but also tremendous stamina to be able to stay out of the way of this guy and outbox him over the course of 10 or 12 rounds. So I still think he's a very interesting heavyweight. I say interesting because, again, not a really big puncher, but tremendous physical strength, Jarrell Miller, and consistent pressure, walking you down, bullying you, hitting you with the little shots, and seemingly impervious to your power. So very interesting addition to the heavyweight division. Yes, he's a despicable human being, an absolute lowlife. I certainly see him that way. But at the end of the day, he is still somewhat of a factor. Now, he claimed after the fight, I should just talk about how the fight ended. Lucas Browne was pretty much spent after that big exchange. I think it was in the fourth. Comes out for the fifth. He's really tired, but Jarrell Miller, I think, was tired as well. Then in the sixth, Jarrell Miller turned up the heat again, put some shots together. Lucas Browne eventually sank to the canvas underneath the ropes, and the referee decided to call it a day there. So, yeah, Jarrell Miller gets the TKO win. After the fight, Jarrell Miller in the post-fight interview was saying that he's next in line for Daniel Dubois. Now, if we have a look at the WBA heavyweight rankings here, you can see Daniel Dubois is the regular champion. If we scroll down, Lucas Browne was ranked number 10. Jarrell Miller's ranked number 11. So how can the number 10 and number 11 fight each other and the winner get Daniel Dubois? That doesn't make sense to me. You would have to go through all these fighters and ask them if they want to fight each other first in eliminators. That's normally how it works, before getting all the way down to number 10 and 11 and telling them that they can fight in an eliminator for the top spot. Because the number 1 spot is currently vacant, that's true. But have they asked Bakole and Wilder if they want to fight, or Bakole and Joshua, or Bakole and Peril, Bakole and Makhmudov, Wilder and any of these guys, Ortiz and Hrgovic and Goodry? I mean, surely they'd have to ask all these guys above him. But I don't know. Miller is claiming that he's next in line for Daniel Dubois. Now, if that does turn out to be the case, and I'm skeptical, all right? I would suspect that Martin Bakole would get a shot at Dubois before Jarrell Miller managed to get an opportunity. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, Jarrell Miller is next in line for Daniel Dubois. I'm going to say something that might shock people here. I would pick Jarrell Miller to beat Daniel Dubois right now. Yeah. Even though Miller is ponderously slow on his feet, I think that his swarming style and his pressure would be too much for Daniel Dubois. And he would take Dubois into deep waters and he would drown him. And it's not just the stylistic thing and the size and the strength of Big Baby Miller. It's also his mindset. Miller is very much a bully in the ring. And I think a bully type fighter like that is going to be all wrong for Daniel Dubois from a psychological perspective. I think Dubois is going to do better against guys who are thinkers. They're not really these ultra alpha personality types. Those kind of guys, the ultra alpha personality types who have a certain amount of ability as well. You could be ultra alpha and not be a good fighter. Okay, but Miller is a good fighter. How good? I'm not saying he's the best heavyweight in the world, but personally, his personality and his style, his size, his consistency, and all that kind of stuff, I think would be enough to beat Daniel Dubois. I think he would probably maybe beat Dubois on points or stop him late. That's what I think would happen. So let's see. I'm sure most of you do not want Jarrell Miller to ever get that opportunity, and I absolutely sympathize with that view because of how many PED tests this guy has failed and his attitude towards it all. I mean, this guy failed multiple PED tests and he's shown no remorse. He's shown no accountability. He keeps on pointing the finger at other people, talking about how Eddie Hearn's a hypocrite, which he is. But never mind Eddie Hearn being a hypocrite, you were found with like a whole pharmacy worth of PEDs in your system. And you're still acting like you've been hard done by. Like, are you having a laugh? So, yeah, I'm with most people with regards to the way I feel about Jarrell Miller. But look, we're probably not going to be able to stop this guy fighting. So we're going to have to factor him in to the heavyweight equation and start talking about how we think he's going to do against certain fighters and so on and so forth. And again, stylistically, I think he's an interesting matchup against many fighters in the heavyweight top 15. So I'll leave it there. Let me know what you guys think in the comment section below about Big Baby Miller his return against Lucas Browne, stopping him in 6 rounds, and how you think he can do against Daniel Dubois or any of the top 15 heavyweights. Let me know.